Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are heading straight to the foothills of the Himalayas to dive into a hyper-local, centuries-old culinary heritage. We're going to unpack the anatomy of the Himachali Dhaam, a feast that, quite frankly, goes way beyond mere sustenance. So get ready because we're about to take a deep dive into some incredible history, science, and survival.
All right, just picture this. It is the dead of winter in Shimla. The air is ridiculously crisp, the wind is biting, and your breath is forming little clouds in the freezing air. Now imagine the immediate sensory warmth of steaming traditional delicacies cutting right through that chill. We aren't just talking about grabbing a quick bite to eat. This is a deeply rooted food culture that has literally kept generations alive through the most brutal mountain winters imaginable.
There's this fantastic quote from a local scholar that goes, "Shimla has always been known for its beauty, but its true essence lies in its people, its traditions, and the timeless warmth of a shared meal." And that really hits the nail on the head. Food here transcends the plate. It connects generations. It's a living, breathing archive of centuries of history where every single flavor carries the absolute weight of tradition.
So, here is our roadmap for The Explainer today. 1. A winter culinary awakening. 2. Defining the Himachali Dhaam. 3. A tale of regional dhams. 4. Tribal bites and street eats. And 5. The power of the Pattal. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, a winter culinary awakening.
Our very first stop is the historic Shimla Ridge for the Him-Ira Food Carnival. And what makes this carnival so special is that it's entirely driven by local women's self-help groups. They aren't just out there selling snacks, they are actively reviving ancient winter survival ingredients. We're talking hand-pounded heirloom grains, sun-dried morels, and pure cow's ghee. You might find an elderly woman from Lahaul explaining the curative benefits of sea buckthorn, locally known as Chamba, right next to stalls serving up homemade rhododendron squash and apple chutney. In a world totally obsessed with processed food, these women are proving that protecting hyper-local organic ingredients is a massive game-changer for both their livelihoods and their heritage. Moving on to Section 2, defining the Himachali Dhaam. So the crucial point here is understanding what exactly this historical centerpiece is. If your mind instantly goes to generalized North Indian tourist food, basic flatbreads and rich garlic-heavy gravies, you have to completely scratch that. The Dhaam is a highly specialized, strictly vegetarian festive feast, and get this, it is cooked completely without onion or garlic. Historically, it had to be so pure that it could be offered directly to the gods, so it delivers a flavor profile that is completely unique.
The history behind this is just wild. We're tracking back about 1,000 years. The king of Chamba apparently tasted the famous Kashmiri wazwan, which, if you know it, is incredibly complex but very meat-heavy. Well, he demanded his cooks create something just as grand, but entirely meatless. And boom, the Dhaam was born. Today, it's cooked by a specific class of traditional Brahmin chefs called Botis, who have been passing down these skills for generations. They cook over open firewood in these massive copper or brass pots called charities. And sure, you can find it in restaurants today, but for sure, the absolute best way to experience a Dhaam is sitting cross-legged on the floor in a huge community gathering, exactly the way it's been done for centuries.
Now, what's really interesting here is the how. How on earth do they achieve such deep, incredible flavors without meat, onions, or garlic? They use this brilliant culinary trick called the Dooni technique. Basically, they take a piece of coal, burn it until it is literally white hot, and pour pure mustard oil directly over it. Then, they carefully suspend this smoking coal right inside a pot of cooked lentils, like a rich Maah Dal, and quickly clamp the lid shut tight. It traps all that smoke, infusing the food with this unforgettable earthy depth. It's just absolute culinary magic.
All right, Section 3, a tale of regional dhams.
Just like the local dialects completely shift as you move across the deep valleys of Himachal Pradesh, so does the Dhaam. In Chamba, which is that 1,000-year-old birthplace we just talked about, it's all about these rich, ghee-heavy dishes like Rajma Madra. But head over to Kangra and you'll run into that smoky, Dooni technique we just covered, mixed with sour, curd-based gravies. But you definitely want to pay attention to Mandi. The Mandi Dhaam has a really fascinating quirk. It follows a strict Ayurvedic sequence. They actually start the meal with a sweet dish, like bundi ka meetha, and they wrap up the whole shebang with a digestion-boosting glass of buttermilk called jol.
And that really perfectly illustrates this incredible balance. You've got the vibrant, sweet Meetha Bhaat placed right alongside the rich, savory Chana Madra. This is not just some random pairing to make the food taste good. It is hardcore, ancient nutritional science. The ancient sage Sushruta actually recommended that a truly balanced meal should hit all 6 tastes.
starting sweet, moving through sour and salty, and finishing up with bitter and astringent. These chefs are meticulously balancing these elements to aid your digestion and keep your body right.
Which brings us to Section 4, Tribal Bites and Street Eats.
Okay, so the grand feasts are amazing, but what about the daily grind? What sustains people through a brutal trans-Himalayan winter in places like Spiti or Kinnaur? When the snow is literally piling up, the street food and tribal bites here are just the ultimate comfort foods. Imagine snacking on jute, which are these amazing, nutty buckwheat funnel cakes sweetened with local honey. Or warming up your freezing hands around a steaming cup of Nankin chai, an earthy, salty tea churned in a traditional wooden vessel known as a dangmo. And obviously you can't forget siddu, a pillowy steamed bread stuffed with paneer or meat that you dip straight into hot ghee. It is this beautiful fusion of local mountain ingredients and Tibetan influence, engineered entirely to keep you warm.
And finally, Section 5, the power of the paddle.
Let's move to and see how this builds into something even more remarkable. Because in Himachal, it isn't just about the food itself, it's about what you eat it on. You are absolutely not eating a traditional dham on modern ceramics, and definitely not on plastic. You're eating it on a pattal. This is a plate painstakingly crafted by hand, stitching 3 to 5 broad tar leaves together using these tiny, thin bamboo pins. Constructing a sturdy, leak-proof plate out of the forest canopy is honestly an art form in itself.
But here's the macro theme, and the science here is absolutely mind-blowing. The ancients didn't just pick tauli leaves or Bauhinia vali if we're being botanical because they were convenient. They understood holistic health in a way we are only just starting to rediscover. Yes, they are completely biodegradable, but when you dish hot, steaming food onto a taro leaf, the heat actually causes the leaf to leach essential nutrients right into your meal. We're talking calcium, iron, proteins like albumin and globulin, and crucial amino acids like lysine, tyrosine, and phenylalanine. Plus, it gives the food this incredibly appetizing, earthy aroma. Think about that. The plate itself literally makes your food healthier.
Which brings us to a big question for you. We are living in an era totally dominated by hyper-processed foods and disposable plastic everything. And yet, tucked away in the Himalayas is a 1,000-year-old tradition that effortlessly masters community, brilliant vegetarian flavor profiles, Ayurvedic health, and zero-waste, nutrient-boosting packaging. It really makes you wonder, what ancient, highly sustainable wisdom is your own local food heritage quietly forgetting? Thank you so much for joining me on this delicious journey through the explainer today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will catch you in the next one.